Hello there. We're here to talk about the Growing Good course that's been produced by the Church Urban Fund. And I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Andy and by Emma, who are both leading churches that have delivered the Growing Good course. But it would be good to know your context first. So Emma, tell us a little bit about the context in which you've delivered the course.
Yep, so I minister in Stalybridge, St Paul's Church, Stalybridge. Stalybridge is a old mill town, so we suffer with historic deprivation caused by lack of employment when all the mills closed. Around our particular church, we have a quite high level of deprivation. The church itself is thriving and growing, but we are looking at how we can change and engage with our community in a better way.
Great. And Andy?
So we're also East Manchester, in a deprived area as well, bottom 20% nationally. Some real pockets of deprivation as well, bottom 4%. And we have a thriving large congregation who are really quite compassionate about others in need. And so there's a real kind of urge towards helping needs in the community.
Great. So Andy, tell us about what was it that drew you to the Growing Good material?
So I suppose last year, when fuel and food poverty were becoming common in the headlines, we realised as the church community that we needed to do something. So we kind of had a ministry in mind, but we wanted to take a team through some training in order to set a culture before we actually launched the new ministry. So when we saw the Growing Good course, we realised it was just what we needed.
Great. And Emma?
Yeah, so I'd come across the Growing Good course online and thought it looked interesting. And as it's a course that looks at how to engage church community with its local community and make those links, that's something that we needed to work on as a church, so it tied in perfectly to where we were at as a church.
Brilliant. And so who came on the course? I mean, who were the people that were there when you asked if anybody would like to do it?
We had about 10 who came forward from the church when I advertised it, but different kinds of people to the ones that normally attend our courses. So it was good to have a different set of people, and they were all people who have that kind of heart for the community and wanted to do something.
Great. Andy?
So we had about a dozen people do the course with us, and we advertised it internally in church, so the people on the course were from the church community.
Great. And Emma, tell us about the themes that resonated most. Which were the best bits of the course?
For us, the best bit of the course, well, it was all good, but the bit that we really needed to hear as a church was about hospitality and about the way we welcome people and how we go about that. And as a church that has always prided itself on offering good hospitality, actually there were some lessons for us to learn in how we actually meet and greet people and how we welcome people and connect with them.
That's great. Well, the cake and the coffee this morning is very, very good. So you obviously learned a lot there. But Andy, what about you?
So yeah, I mean, there were 6 sessions. They were all brilliant. Started off with actually helping us realise all the things that we were doing, perhaps that we hadn't actually realised. But again, I think it was session 3, which was on hospitality, which was for us the most useful. It just helped us frame or set really a culture that we were wanting to embed with the team, and particularly around three points on the course, which to guard against being paternalistic and not just do it for the community but do ultimately with the community, to guard against being incomplete. So although we wanted to bless the community with all sorts of practical help, we also wanted our faith to be very front and centre, and also not to be inconsistent. You know, we didn't just want to look out for perhaps the great needs in a certain block of the week, but we wanted to extend that to whenever we saw a need.
Okay, so that's great that you had all of those things in mind. I suppose the obvious question is, what happened next? Have you actually made changes to the way you operate as a result of the course?
So yeah, we had the kind of like ministry in mind that we were going to set up before we started the course. So it's more a case of growing the team together, setting the culture before we stepped into it. But we did make some adjustments. We essentially ended up doing a weekly drop-in meal for the community. But I think the things that we learned through the course embedded things in the team that we then implemented in the course. Things like, including, obviously, initially people were our guests, but ultimately including them as part of the team and getting them involved as well.
That's very good, very good. Emma, did you have, what about your next steps?
Yeah, so the timing was perfect. So we started it in the autumn, just as all the winter fuel pressure crisis was starting to hit. So out of the course came the idea of joining with the Warm Hub network and the Place of Welcome network. And so we decided we were just going to open our church up once a week on a Thursday and serve hot drinks and food. And so that's what we did. And we had no idea how it's going to work, but it was lovely to see people come in, and throughout the day we saw the people that were engaging changed. And we had this lovely connection that was made between a veg shop in our local community who supplied vegetables, which were then taken to our local secondary school up the road, and a team of kids there with an inspirational teacher cooked soup for us.
Oh,
and then that got delivered to our warm welcome lunchtime, which we fed to the people who came through our doors. And so we had this lovely kind of circle of supporting one another and helping. It wasn't just us doing it to the community, actually our community came on board as well.
What a brilliant result. Andy, any good stories that you from
Yeah,
your
I mean, plenty of good stories. Just the amazing mix of people around a table eating food from the local community, many of whom said, it was their only hot meal that they were having at the time throughout the week. I mean, we initially thought it was going to tackle the issue of fuel and food poverty, but isolation was also the huge one, which I think it met the need for. And so it was just incredible hearing stories around the table. I mean, week 2, I was sat opposite a guy who had a very strong southern accent, and I just sort of asked, you don't seem to be, from around here. How long have you lived around here? 2 weeks, he said. He said, the last 20 years I've been in prison. And straight out of prison, sat around a table with the local community and finding some sort of a welcome there. So, lots of incredible stories of people that were incredibly isolated but found community. And so we've run it for 20 weeks. We had 1 week off for a holiday. And even in that week off, quite a number of them actually gathered together somewhere else for a meal. So it kind of made community.
They already created community.
Yeah.
And in terms of linking this with mission and the proclamation of the gospel, have you actually managed to be able to do that in a way that's made differences?
Very much. I mean, it's a case of invitation into all sorts of other things. And so we're constantly inviting people into wider church activities, not least the Sunday service, although that's not everything. And we have seen a steady flow of people coming over into lots of other things that we do as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, likewise. It wasn't our intention. We just wanted to open the doors and invite people in, but actually what we have found is people that have come in have started to come along to our church or Messy Church, and we have a service at 11 o'clock on a Thursday when alongside the warm welcome. We have it in church, which was freezing because we're warming the lounge for our warm welcome. But ironically, that service has grown, and people are quite happy to come and sit in a freezing church, and then they go to the warm welcome. So it's been, without it being the intention, actually we've seen people come into our worshipping community as well. And the other thing as well that's happened that, again, didn't intend it because we applied for a grant to cover the costs, so we knew we could heat and feed people. But we have a donations book, again, getting away from this paternalistic thing. People are involved in it. We give them the opportunity to give if they want to. And we have made money on the project.
Right.
People have been so generous, which again wasn't the intention.
Always a good thing,
Yeah.
though. So if there is a church out there who's thinking they would like to consider running the Growing Good course, what would you say to them? What tips would you give to them?
For us, it was just an off-the-shelf course that worked brilliantly. So it's all online. The videos are very engaging. There's Bible study, there's prayer, there are questions to work through, sort of activities to do together as a group. So it kind of just leads itself as long as you've got a facilitator that's happy to kind of work and lead the group through. It's a really easy course to run without too much preparation and input.
Brilliant. Andy?
Yeah, I would echo that. It's a 6-week course, but it's also very much a standalone 6-week course where you could just pick off certain subjects and look at those if that was more appropriate for your team. But it's a very affirming process, just I think recognising all that's possible and just to set the culture for a new initiative.
So there you are. You've heard people who've run the course. We just want to encourage you to consider running the Growing Good course. If you want to know details of how to do that, they'll be appearing on the screen at the end of this video. But if you have questions, then please come back to either Wendy Robertson or Ruth Bull at Transforming Lives Together, and they'll be happy to give you more help and advice on how to run the Growing Good course. but thanks for joining us.